Welcome back, wonderful humans. I'm Danielle and I currently live alone and trying to shift towards healthier meals whilst remaining on a budget. Here's what I ended up eating this week, and let me tell you, the theme of the week is using bad things up. So, for lunch on the Saturday, we went to Greg's. We went to an event during the day. We knew that there was a chance we might get stuck in the car park whilst everything was sort of clearing up a little bit. So, I did just have that chicken and bacon baguette in the car alongside a boiled egg and some of their sparkling raspberry lemonade. For dinner that evening, I did just have one of the naked noodles, hot and sour ramen noodle soups. And that was tasty and super nice, obviously low in calories. And for what it could be, not too bad in salt either. And on that day, I also had my chocolate cronut that I got in Lidl. I got that as part of my free bakery item for the week. And so, yeah, I had that. And that was all I ended up having on the Saturday. On the Sunday, however, for breakfast, I treated myself having a bit more time to sort of do what I wanted. So I decided to make some crepes. I did a savory one that included some spring onions, mushrooms, and cheddar cheese. And I did a sweet one as well that had some peanut butter and bananas in there. The sweet one was definitely thicker, probably more like what I would refer to as an English pancake, but that was super nice to treat myself by doing that. For lunch, I made myself up some cottage cheese and potato bites and popped them in the air fryer to cook them. And for dinner, I just had some of this ancho and lime rice, sort of Mexican style, according to Sainsbury's. Wouldn't get it again, but at least now I can say that I've tried it. Because if you don't try it, then you'll never know. But then for my evening snacks, I did end up having a Greg's gingerbread man. For Mondays, I made sure I had some breakfast before I started my work week, and I just had some crumpets. Just put some margarine on there and made sure that they were nice and warm and melty so that sort of all seeped through. I didn't end up actually particularly having any lunch. All I had was a handful of these cashew nuts. Fun fact, I'm not supposed to eat cashew nuts in the same way as I'm not supposed to eat peanuts either. But I did, and that kind of nut isn't too bad for me. I can get away with it compared to something like a Brazil nut. And then for my dinner, I made a tagliatelle sort of mix with some feta, tomatoes, a bit of pepper, some mushrooms in there, and topped that with some soy sauce and ginger salmon as well. Had some evening snacks of some of these Mawan mix. This is part of one of the things I was mentioning about wanting to try to use things up. If I don't have sweets and candy and that sort of thing around, then I can't eat it. So I had some of those, and in the end, they contributed to about 1,459 calories for the Monday. Whereas on Tuesday, it was definitely a more of a blowout day. In fact, it ended up being 2,083 calories. And these crumpets definitely contributed towards that for my breakfast. Then for lunch, I had the rest of that tagliatelle mix that I'd made up and that last bit of salmon as well. And after having such a large amount for lunch, obviously wasn't particularly hungry going into my afternoon snack, but I did still want something to nibble on, so I just had one single pack of those fridge raiders. Then for dinner, I did go ahead and make myself up a garlic baguette, topped it with some spicy salami sticks, some mushrooms, little tomatoes chopped up, and a bit of mature cheddar as well. And like I said, that definitely contributed towards that excessive amount of calories, especially when I did finish off the rest of those Mawams as well. Although coming in at 2,083 calories is obviously more than I would like, and it isn't necessarily going to help me towards losing weight and healthier eating, but it was definitely a lot more in budget than it could have been. For Wednesday, I did have breakfast again, but I treated myself a little bit and I put some banana and peanut butter in between those crumpets and put them in the air fryer for a little while just to toast them up and sort of melt that banana and peanut butter together a little bit. Like I said, I was starting late, so I figured why not treat myself to a bit of a better breakfast. For lunch, I just ended up having a bit of this Cornish yag and some fridge raiders. I didn't eat all of the cheese, but I just wanted to show it to you in an easier form. For anybody curious about what Cornish yag is, it's a cheese that's wrapped in nettle leaves. I had some afternoon snacks of this raspberry and passion fruit yogurt. As mentioned before, I'm probably only going to go down to buying one or two of these at most a week, just so I have something that's a bit more of a sweet treat, just because of how high in calories and sugar that they are. And then for my dinner, I made up some soba noodles with some pork loin, some broccoli, and a bit of red pepper. and then a chow mein stir fry sauce that I had as well. Then in the evening, I went on to try some of these nostalgia mix. You might have seen me talking about them recently in one of my shorts, and they have pear drops, rhubarb, and custard, and pineapple and cola cubes in. But there's something about the soft and sweetness of them that I'm not that keen on. I'd rather just have the hard boiled traditional sweet version. On Thursday, I again managed to have some breakfast, but this time it's a bit of a weirder one, I suppose. I just ended up frying up some eggs and I topped them with butter to make sure that they were nice and cooked as well. I find that's a really good method to get them cooked. Yep, so I just had some of those for my breakfast on the Thursday, and that ended up contributing towards my 1,460 calories. And so did some of my morning snacks. I just had two different types of refrigerators and a tiny amount of dried mango as well. I was fancying something a bit sweet, so I just grabbed a couple of those pieces. For my lunch, I then had that leftover noodle and pork mix. As you can see, I heated it up super well, and that just then kept me going as well. Obviously, quite a heavy calorie lunch that ended up being just over 600 calories. But I did still have some afternoon snacks of the rest of that nostalgia mix. And actually, given the amount of it that I had, it was 279 calories and it was 50 grams of sugar. But because of how little sugar I'd had in the rest of the day, according to my calculator, I technically get away with it. But I strongly disagree with that because I don't think that amount of sugar at once is good for any person. And then for my dinner, I had some of those naked noodles, chili chicken, ramen noodle soup mix. Again, just trying to get this sort of thing out because it's definitely not bad for me, but I could definitely do better. And then for Friday, I did have breakfast and I decided to give these oat pancakes a go. Looked up a few recipes and sort of tweaked it around. I'll probably tweak it again when I do make them, but it's actually quite a pleasant experience. And I managed to not set my fire alarm off as well, which is always a bonus compared to when I did the crepes the other day. But I did also have some morning snacks of those 2 refrigerator packs. My day was a bit of a higgledy-piggledy one again with the times that I was working with my lunch break, my proper breaks. I also had some of this apple, mango, spinach, and avocado cold pressed juice. And believe it or not, this was my first break of the day that started at 11:45 until 12. So I definitely was hungry for something by then. But then I had some afternoon snacks of those cashew nuts. This was basically in my lunch break, which came in at 3 to half past 3. So you'd be unsurprised. No, I didn't have any proper lunch. But then for dinner, I'd been making this on and off all day, done the prep in the morning and got it all ready in the afternoon. I did myself a frittata and that had some sausage in there, some broccoli, red pepper, and a few other bits as well, and obviously a lot of eggs. And I just had half of that and put the other half in some for leftovers for another day. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button, consider subscribing, and of course, join in the conversation below. See you more next time.